This is the continuation of Luminous by Sokka's First Fangirl on AO3. Once again, the author has left a trigger warning for this chapter. It includes a flashback to Link's death and description of wounds. This is Chapter 8, titled Flames. Purah's long table was a cramped mess of papers, ancient parts, splashes of spilled ink, even more torn up and crumpled papers, pens and pencils, and flasks of various sizes full of suspicious liquids. The whole lab smelled of oil and something faintly metallic. The room was too warm. Link liked it. Purah wiped her eyes and rushed forward to take his hands. Come on, she coaxed, dragging him towards the messy table. We've got a lot to talk about, Linky. Simon, put some tea on. She pulled up another stool, pushing 3 books and even more notes off it, and unceremoniously pushed Link into it. She climbed back onto her own stool and stood up on it, hands on her hips, their faces finally at a height. Her grin was bright, mischievous, maybe a little nervous. Well then, she said, do you remember me, Linky? You look even blanker than before, buddy. Rude, Link thought, eyebrows raised. He shook his head. Purah gave a dramatic huff, puffing out her cheeks. Nothing? She asked. You don't remember me at all, even though I'm the one who hauled your skinny butt to the Shrine of Resurrection? Nothing? You did that? Link blurted out. But you're... He broke off, shaking his head. Is this some joke? You're 6. She slapped his arm sharply. Hey, rude, she snapped. Although, yeah, fair. Let's just say this is an experiment gone wrong. Simon, the tea! Simon, making the tea, gave a harried sigh. Don't you sigh at me, mister, Purah huffed. She turned back to Link. Anyway, yeah, I'm older than you, Linky, and, really? No memories at all. He couldn't really say he remembered nothing anymore. Who would have thought he'd miss not knowing anything? His lack of memories had driven him batty up on the plateau. He'd been frustrated and impatient to remember in Kakariko. And now? Now he wished he didn't remember a damn thing. There's some things, Link said hesitantly. Fire, malice, guardian beams, pain, 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 blood. Terrified screams all around him. Purah's gaze softened. Hey, it's okay, she said gently. You don't have to tell me, not unless you want to. Simon came over with a tea tray. It took him a moment to find a spot to safely put it on the table. He glanced between Purah and Link questioningly. Purah cleared her throat, and she sounded almost like an adult when she said, Simon, can you give me and Link some time alone? Simon didn't question it. He just said, I'll be in my room, and left swiftly. He had to go outside to reach the stairs twisting around the building. Okay, Purah said when he was gone. Just us. You okay? I don't think so, Link admitted. I remembered something bad, Purah signed. Her eyes were ancient in her childish face. Very bad, Link answered. Guardians at Fort Hateno. Purah paled and her eyes widened. Fuck, she whispered. She gulped and grabbed the notebook nearest to her and frantically scribbled, muttering to herself. Memories mostly gone, some returned already. Any other memories, Linky? Link thought it over. I think I dreamed about the champions, he said, but I don't remember what was going on in the dreams. I don't know if they were memories or not. Purah wrote down what he said. She tapped her pencil against her chin. Interesting. The Shrine of Resurrection. Well, the information we had was shaky at best. The only thing we knew for sure was that there was a high chance of amnesia. Total amnesia. She closed her notebook and set it back down. I'm sorry, Linky. I wish it was different. Link hesitated, but he still asked. Was it meant to take 100 years? We weren't sure, Purah admitted sadly. We had no idea how long it would take. A few days, weeks, a century or more. Her voice trailed away and she sighed, looking at the floor. It was our last shot. Our final hope, Zelda called it. She looked up again, offering Link a smile. Somewhat shy. I'm glad you're back, she said. Not just to fight Ganon. I'm just glad you're back, Linky. Thanks, Purah, Link signed. Purah's eyes brightened when he signed her name. We were friends, right? He asked. Yep, Purah said, her voice more cheerful. I used to drive Robbie nuts, insisting I was your favorite. Impa was Zelda's favorite, so we were kinda in a competition to win you over first. Who's Robbie? Purah paused. She looked over her shoulder as if nervous someone would overhear. When no one popped out of the shadows, she looked Link dead in the eye and bluntly said, He's my subordinate. There, I said it. It was hard to believe she was Impa's sister. And, one more thing. Purah shifted nervously, wobbling her stool so much that Link braced himself to catch her if she fell. Does the name Mipha ring any bells? We were married, Link said quietly. Impa told me. Oh, thank Hylia, Purah sagged in relief. I was not looking forward to... You've met Impa? And she didn't write to me? She grabbed Link's face between her tiny hands. Linky, hey, look at me. How long were you with her? 2 weeks. Link flinched back from her sudden, deafening shrieks, letting out an incoherent noise of total rage. Purah climbed onto the table and ran down the length of it until she found a clean sheet of paper. She marched back to Link and grabbed her pencil, once more muttering to herself as she wrote. Impa, you little bitch, she muttered. You could have warned me. Disregard Simmons' last letter. It's way too polite for you. Fuck you. Love you and miss you. From Purah. She sealed it in an envelope and handed it to Link. There's always a messenger at the inn in the morning, she said, back to normal volume. See that gets to him, yeah? Right, Link said. Purah patted him on the head. Link wondered if he'd ever passed on messages for her before. When he asked, Purah laughed. Oh yeah, she snickered. You gave Robbie a letter bomb for me. Hey, don't look at me like that. It was a glitter bomb. Simon, because he had manners, insisted on Link taking the bed while he slept on the floor. Link said he should sleep on the floor or just go to the inn. Purah threatened to lock him in the closet if he wouldn't just take the stupid bed. Linky had never been very good at letting people do nice things for him. Purah still remembered how hard he blushed once he officially became a prince and servants started tripping over themselves to offer him help. Before he married Mipha, he was obviously still important. He was the Hylian champion and Hylia's chosen, after all. But after that wedding, oh boy. Purah once walked into the library to find 2 servants fussing because Link had climbed the ladder up to the bookshelves to get books for him and Zelda. Zelda had done a terrible job at hiding her giggles. Evidently, that independence and shyness hadn't changed, even with missing memories. Link had given her the Sheikah slate before they all went to bed, and Purah lay awake now examining it. The camera and compendium were locked. She'd perfected the ability to strengthen the runes years ago. In the morning, she'd ask Link to bring the blue flame from the furnace and get to work. Granted, she'd need Link to bring her ancient parts as well, and that meant going near Guardians. The idea made her sick. Forget the Guardians. Maybe the shrines would have some ancient gear hidden inside. But the camera and compendium? She didn't need parts for that. Just her guidance stone. She'd do those first. And then... Her gaze wandered to her closet. Her thoughts turned to the champion's tunic hidden inside. Well, once she'd unlocked those 2, then it would be time to return Link's tunic. He'd waited long enough to get it back. 100 years was a long time to borrow a tunic. She hadn't borrowed it. She'd had to peel the ruined tunic off Link's body, retching and trying not to break down all the while. Her hand brushed the gaping wound in his side, and she'd lost the ability to breathe until Robbie shook her and shouted that they needed to keep it together. They needed to get the shrine working, and they needed to get the hell off the Great Plateau and try to make it home to Impa. The thought of her little sister waiting at home for her brought Purah back to herself. She refused to believe Impa might be dead. So, yeah, Purah took the ruined tunic. She spent so long washing the blood out, but the tunic was totally ruined. Most of the blood couldn't be washed away. There was a huge, burned hole in the torso and smaller burns across the arms and shoulders. Purah wasn't as good at sewing as Zelda, so she went and bought books on the subject. She taught herself until she was satisfied, and then she got to work on a new champion's tunic, using as much fabric as she could from the old one. Really, the champion's garb was meant to be bestowed by Zelda, but Purah would have to do. It was easier to say she'd borrowed it, cleaned it up. When Link inevitably asked, that was what Purah would tell him. She'd fixed the old one. It wasn't a total lie. Purah set the slate aside, lay down, and forced her eyes shut. She wasn't sure she could sleep. How could she? Link was here, more or less in one piece. They had a plan. This time, they were going to beat the calamity. This time, Purah wouldn't let him and Zelda down. Blue flame. Link paused in tying his hair back. Breakfast had just ended. Yep, Purah said cheerfully. She slurped down the last of her coffee. For the furnace outside. You can find the ancient furnace in the village. It's near the mayor's house. And you can't do it because... I'm physically 6, Linky. I don't want to explain all that to the village and have the kids try to bombard me again. Purah said. She snapped her fingers at him as if to wake him up. And someone, she threw Simon a frustrated glare, nearly started a forest fire. Simon blushed right to the tips of his ears. Link looked at him questioningly. I tripped, he admitted with an embarrassed squeak. Link snorted, one hand pressed over his mouth. Purah giggled, though her amusement didn't last long. So, she clapped her hands together. Blue flame, guidance stone, upgraded Sheikah slate, yes? Yeah, okay, Link said. Yay! Just, get back before it rains, okay? Well, no time like the present. Link headed out and spotted the village kids trying to spy again, loudly calling updates to each other, and immediately spotted the ancient furnace. Link found the messenger Purah mentioned outside the inn, gave him the letter for Impa, such as it was, and headed for the furnace. It stuck out like a sore thumb in the village. A bright blue, glowing thumb. A torch, that already looked burned, leaned against it. Link could see a trail of unlit lanterns leading from the furnace, around the farm and up to the lab. Some led into the village. They were all plainly Sheikah design. The blue flame was bright, hotter than any of Link's campfires, and oddly beautiful. He was tempted to light every lantern, just to see what it would look like when night fell. But those dark clouds were looking ominous. Maybe some other time. For now, Link lit the torch and hurried back to the lab. As soon as he lit the furnace outside the door, he could hear Purah shriek with glee inside. Yes! She screamed. My precious guidance stone! She was so weird. Link kind of loved it. As soon as he was inside, she grabbed him and yanked him towards the guidance stone. It was steadily glowing, albeit dimly, but its brightness slowly grew. Yes! Purah hissed, rubbing her hands together. We're back, baby! She practically slapped the Sheikah slate onto the pedestal. A mechanical voice said, Sheikah slate detected. The guidance stone glowed brighter. It flashed with the Sheikah symbol. A drop of bright blue light fell from the guidance stone and onto the slate. It sounded a little bit like bells ringing. Purah snatched up the slate and cheered again. Simon looked up from his textbooks, eyebrows raised. It worked! Purah cried, pushing the slate into Link's hands. Linky, look! The camera and compendium are back in business! The compendium had a few images and notes saved. Rushrooms, stags, and does, bokoblins, moblins, apples, Hylian shrooms, swift violets, and Hylian herbs. But the camera... Emotions washed over Link too quickly for him to keep up. Happiness, grief, confusion, love, even more grief. He felt nostalgic and couldn't say why. There were images of locations in the camera reel. 12 locations, all very different from one another. But there were photos of people, too. A girl who looked just like Paya, Impa, and a young woman with Purah's eyes. Was it Purah? The girl who looked like Paya was trying to look huffy, and the young woman with Purah's eyes had an arm thrown over her shoulder, grinning at the camera and flashing a peace sign. A man wearing goggles, another Sheikah, stood behind them, striking a pose, one hand on his hip, the other pointing up in the air. A woman with red hair and dark skin smirked at the camera, looking over her shoulder. Behind her, the sun was setting and some giant structure could be seen. It looked like a mechanical camel. A picture of Link himself, hair down and sitting on a window seat, knees tucked under his chin as he looked out the window. It was raining. A beautiful girl with long blonde hair and big green eyes was holding the camera, angling it towards herself and Link. She was beaming in the picture, but Link's past self looked surprised. Zelda, Link knew. He knew it as easily as breathing. A bird creature looked entirely fed up as a hulking creature made from rocks thrust a plate of blackened rocks towards him with an eager smile. The rock creature was wearing a chief's hat. Behind them, the red-haired woman was laughing, leaning against the wall. And then, another girl, a dolphin-like creature, a Zora. She had rich red and white scales and bright golden eyes, a serene smile. She looked ethereal. She gently grasped a silver trident. Her jewelry was silver, studded with diamonds and opals. She wore a bright blue sash. Mipha. It was Mipha. She was so beautiful. Link, Zelda, and Mipha with their friends. They all looked surprised, except for the hulking giant who was grinning. He'd pushed them all together, so the bird creature was falling forward, and so was Mipha. Zelda was leaning sideways to try and dodge them. Link, wide-eyed, was caught in between them all. The red-haired woman was smirking at them, somehow managing to keep her balance. They had to be Urbosa, Rivali, and Daruk. The next series of photos made Link freeze. It was a wedding. Mipha was decked out in more jewelry, shimmering from head to toe. A white, sheer, split skirt swept down her legs from a silver and diamond belt. Her jewelry was all in the shapes of crescent moons and teardrops, but her bracelets were engraved with hearts. She stood before a giant Zora, deep blue and wearing an elaborate silver crown. A tiny red Zora child stood with them. Link, arm in arm with a tall, broad man who had Link's eyes and a woman who had Link's hair and face. A younger girl with the same golden hair, scattered flower petals. Like Mipha, Link was dressed in white and silver. The jewelry was engraved with Zora and Hylian symbols. Link and Mipha kissing, Link and Mipha dancing. Zelda dancing with the little Zora child on her feet. The giant blue Zora leaning down to speak with the woman who had Link's face and hair. Urbosa dancing with Zelda and the little blonde girl. Mipha carrying the Zora child with a proud, beaming smile. The bird creature, Rivali, ruffling Link's hair while Link tried to fix the jewels slipping from his hair. The blonde girl and Zora child fast asleep at the banquet table. King Rome looking stern. The stone giant, Daruk, lifting Mipha and Link up to hug them both. Oh, Link thought, and it came flooding back. Capson's voice was usually quiet, but now he spoke loud and clear, with dignity and poise. We are gathered here today to join Princess Mifa and Sir Link in matrimony, he said. The entire domain had gathered in the palace courtyard, along with the champions, Link's family, King Rome. Link wished they didn't have to invite him, and what felt like half the Hylian court. Link wished they didn't have to invite them either. But here and now, standing hand in hand with Mifa, he barely remembered any of them existed. All he could see was her smile, the shine in her eyes. She outshone the sun itself, more beautiful and miraculous than the moon and the stars could ever hope to be. Princess, Capson's voice softened with fondness, before the eyes of the witnesses and those of the goddess Hylia, do you take Sir Link as your husband, to have and to hold, in good times and bad, in sickness and in health, until death do you part? Link had worried about that, about their lifespans. Mifa would live for centuries. Shouldn't she want to be with someone who could live with her as she deserved? I don't want anyone else, Mifa told him firmly. I want you, for as long as the gods and goddesses will allow, for as long as you'll have me. Now, Mifa proudly said, I do. Link was sure he heard Errol squeal. And Sir Link, Capson turned to him smiling, before the eyes of the witnesses and those of goddess Hylia, do you take Princess Mifa as your wife, to have and to hold, in good times and in bad, in sickness and in health, until death do you part? Nothing could have stolen his voice today. I do, Link said, loud and clear, beaming at Mifa. He signed it again. I do. I do, Mifa signed. Then I now pronounce you husband and wife, Capson said. He gestured to them both with a twinkle of amusement as he said, You may kiss. His voice was drowned out by all the applause and cheers. Mifa threw her arms around his neck, and Link spun her around as they kissed. Get a room, Baz called. Koda whooped loudly, and Daruk cheered, Yeah! And even above all the noise, Link could hear Rivali telling Daruk to show some decorum. Mifa and Link were both giggling as they parted. Link kept holding her, and Mifa rested her forehead against his. I love you, she said softly. Linky! Linky! Purah was starting to sound frantic. Reality came rushing back in a roar. Link was kneeling on the floor of the lab. Purah had her hands on Link's shoulders, shaking him. Simon hovered, holding the slate. He looked pale. I was married, Link said hoarsely. What? Well, yeah, Purah said. Geez, Linky, what was that? You just dropped and went all blank and... Her voice broke. Don't do that. I was married, Link repeated. Link? I remember, Link said. Tears stung his eyes. Purah, I remember. The three of them sat at the messy table. Simon had thrown a blanket over Link's shoulders, like Link was ill. Purah held his hands and had the Sheikah slate in the other. So, looking at the pictures triggered a memory, she murmured. She clicked through the photos, fondness and sorrow mixing in her eyes. Zelda took these photos, all of them, and... Okay, hear me out. You were Zelly's knight. You were with her practically all the time. You would have been there when most of these photos were taken. Maybe when all of them were taken. If you visit these places while you head after the divine beasts, maybe it will bring the rest of your memories back, Simon finished. I had parents, Link said blankly, barely listening. A sister. Hylia, I named my horse after my sister. He couldn't hold it in anymore. Waking up with no memories and only a voice in his head. Grief he couldn't place. A ghostly king giving directions. A ruined kingdom. Monsters everywhere. Dead friends. A trapped princess. A trapped friend. A looming demon. Hatred incarnate. A dead wife, a dead family, destiny dangling a blade over his neck, flashes of utter terror and violence, the knowledge of his own death. All that loss, all that failure. Link pressed his face against the table and burst into tears. Purah quietly ordered Simon away, pulling Link into her arms. She was a tiny little girl, for all intents and purposes, but she rocked him back and forth as best she could, rubbing his back. "I'm sorry," she said. "Link, I'm so sorry. We can make this better, I promise." "Nothing can make this better," Link sobbed. "She's dead. Mipha's dead, and I wasn't there." Everyone was dead. He'd let them all down. Mipha was gone, and there was no way to fix that. Thanks so much to anybody who listens to this. As always, I'll leave a link down in the description for the original fic on AO3. Please go leave kudos and comments for the original author there. I will be back with chapter 9 whenever I get that done.